Hello and welcome to the Leadership Chat at IIT Gandhinagar, a monthly series of conversations with prominent leaders. My name is Achal Mehra. I'm a faculty member in Humanities at IIT Gandhinagar and your host for the evening with Mukul Pandya, former Editor-in-Chief of Knowledge at Wharton at the University of Pennsylvania. Mukul is joining us from New Jersey, his early morning. In today's chat, we are pleased to welcome Major D.P. Singh. Major Singh is a retired officer of the Indian Army. He's a Kargil War veteran and is known as India's first Blade Runner. After his amputation following injuries sustained in the Kargil War, he gradually started running using a prosthetic limb and has run in 26 half marathons in his running career. The Limca Book of Records named him to its People of the Year 2016 list. He was ambassador to the Indian Army in 2018, the year dedicated to soldiers disabled in the line of duty. In 2019, he became the first solo skydiver among persons with disabilities in Asia. His life story has been chronicled in Grit, the Major Story, a 2019 graphic memoir. Before we request Major Singh to share his thoughts on leadership, we will watch this brief 3-minute video that shares some background about him.
I got commissioned in 97 December and 15th of July 99 I got injured. To me, it was never that something wrong has happened with me. If I wish to be independent, then I have to, do a lot of activities which is actually out of my comfort zone. So being a Fauji, it was always at back of my mind that how do I run? The first marathon which I did, 2009, is the most memorable one because उस दिन सिर्फ एक डिस्टेंस नहीं ट्रैवल किया था, उस दिन अपनी कमजोरियों को काबू करने की शुरुआत करी थी. It only happened because I thought that I can. Today, my biggest of loss, my shortcoming became my strongest of strength. One thing which confuses most of the people is that if there is a difficulty, if there is a challenge in the life, that challenge is not good. जिंदगी में दूसरों के ऊपर जीतना इतना मुश्किल नहीं है जितना अपने ऊपर जीतना है. I might be slow, but I'll keep my flow. I won't stop till I reach the top.
The kind of spirit which is exuding, that was something which was really energizing.
Rather than just talking, he wants to do things on ground. The way he motivates people, it's amazing.
He is the inspiration behind all of us, who has motivated us to come out of our hidden zone and be in front of the society.
It is very important and it is very, very critical that in my mind, I should always think that I can do it.
Major Singh, can we have you speak for a few minutes and then I will get into some question and answers followed by Mukul Pandya who will bring in some of the questions from the audience.
Thank you, Professor Achal, for giving me this opportunity and a nice introduction. And a Jai Hind to all the audience who are listening, watching this show today. So before I start, as a customary and as a ceremony, I always take the opportunity to thank that team of mine and that doctor because of whom I am today alive. As I am saying so, the reason is that when in 1999 on 15th of July, I came under attack of enemy shelling, the mortar bomb, which exploded meter and a half away from me. And as per the teachings of that mortar, particular 52 bomb, from the point of impact, 8-meter dia is the killing zone. But from me, it was hardly meter and a half away. And the whole shrapnels of the bomb came cutting me, my body through and through, or there are around 73 shrapnels which are still embedded inside my body. So from those many holes, I was profusely bleeding, became unconscious within fraction of seconds. It was my team, ladies and gentlemen, which without worrying about their own life, their own safety, who evacuated me from that battle zone. Why I'm saying without worrying about their own life, because enemy post was hardly 80 meters away from my post, and it was highly possible for the enemy to take a pot shot, pick and choose, kill each one of them, the 4 stretcher bearers who were evacuating me. And there was a river stream flowing behind my post. One of the stretcher bearer was a weak swimmer, but despite all these challenges in their mind, they were thinking that they can do it, and it has to be done. There is no other option which they had kept for themselves. Despite this evacuation from the battle zone, because of the profuse bleeding and heavy bleeding and the cardiac arrest en route, the 2.5 hours journey time which I took to reach to the nearest hospital, when I was received by the surgeon in that small hospital, he had declared me brought dead, and it was told that take this body to the mortuary. But again, as the luck would have, and as I joke around, वो जो बोलते हैं ना कि भगवान को प्यारा हो गया, so perhaps I was not so प्यारा to the भगवान as yet. So he said कि ठीक है भैया, you stay there only. We don't need your services up there. Do something worth there on the ground itself. So there came a saint again, Lieutenant Colonel Rajinder Singh, who was anesthesiologist, and as a professional anesthesiologist, he knew how to revive out of unconsciousness, and he saw some life still in me, in my body. He revived me with his never say die attitude. He said, I'll not give up. There must be something in this boy. Third day I came into consciousness. Of course, there are a lot of injuries, but that was the beginning of new life. And whatever I achieved till today, you saw in the 2 videos which we shared with you guys, is, I owe it to those soldiers, that doctor, and many Indians, irrespective of caste, creed, blood, color, or anything, or religion, who gave me blood. So today I run true Indian blood in my veins. It's not my hereditary family blood which is there inside me. I'm the true Indian blood carrier, which I proudly share. And this journey, which started on 15th of July 1999, made me see a life which became so beautiful, so cherishing. I could achieve so much in this life that if today you ask me what is the most beautiful thing which has happened in my life, I would say I getting injured. And rather, again, jokingly, I rather thank General Musharraf and his team that he had thrown a bomb when they couldn't find a bullet on which Major DP Singh was written. As they say in the Bollywood, har goli pe kisi ka naam likha hua hai. When they couldn't find that bullet, so they had thrown that bomb like to whomsoever it may concern. That because the bomb is a parabolic trajectory ammunition, and when it bursts, it may kill anybody, whomsoever it may concern, type of a thing. But they wasted that ammunition also, courtesy my team. And this is the spirit of Indian Army team, Indian Armed Forces team rather, because you must have seen n number of times this situation when goes out of control for the administration, whether it is man-made calamity or whether it is natural calamity. If there is an organization whom we look up to, it's the Indian Armed Forces, and they come out successful as winner in saving many precious life and coming out of the drastic dangerous situation despite not being trained to handle such things, because we are trained to handle war, not such situations. Reason being that all of them think that they can, there is no other option. And most importantly, because all of them are infused with a thought that nation comes first. And what nation actually is made of? It is made of either just two things: motherland and people living on that. So whether it is people who are in danger or whether it is the motherland which is in danger, if armed forces are being tasked, they will come out as successful. There is no other option. Nation comes first, then comes your team. And this is the reason why my team evacuated me, because for them, team is above self. In the end comes your own ease and comfort. Nation first, then comes your team, and at the end comes your own ease and comfort. So when this Chetwood motto is being followed by each individual of the armed forces, they are ready to look after anybody else but self, and everybody else is looking after each other. Imagine the type of atmosphere which it creates, that everybody is looking after everybody else and nobody is bothered about self, and everything happens beautifully. So then there is no other result which you can achieve but success.
Okay, well, thank you, Major Singh. Let me take one of the threads of the point that you're making, because one of the most remarkable things, looking at going through your experience and the spirit with which you have taken it, and I guess taken it beyond coping to actually making a full life out of it. We are now in a period of individually, because of this COVID situation, where many of us feel very cribbing about our lockdowns, our confinements. And I know that during the early period of the pandemic, when the first lockdown had happened, you had written on the subject of lockdown and talked about how this lockdown with smartphones and the Zoom call that we are currently having and the air conditioning within which we are sitting is quite different from the 1 year of lockdown that you had in an ICU. Or that soldiers have in the remote regions of India, which can go on for years at a time. So can you tell us what lessons can we learn from coping that soldiers experience and that you experienced while bottled in, that we can apply to our lives in this lockdown?
See, life always is very relative. When you are only looking on yourself and your pains and aches, वो 2 लाइनें कभी लिखी थी मैंने कि मुझसा दुखी कोई नहीं ये सोचता हर इंसान है, मुझसा दुखी कोई नहीं ये सोचता हर इंसान है, जिंदगी दूसरे की सुन तो जानेगा क्या तूफान है. So when you see somebody else who is in much more difficult situation than you yourself, then you realize that how beautiful life you are cherishing. But it is possible only when you expose yourself to that awareness. So if I tell you what type of lockdown or isolation soldiers always undergoes, be it minus 50 degree in Siachen Glacier to plus 50 degree in the deserts of Rajasthan, everywhere and anywhere it is isolation. It is only the balance between the land, and most of the time you are not on the land, the habitated land I am referring to. Either you are in jungles, or you are in Siachen or high altitude, or you are in desert area. All these arenas, actually you are living a life still in these days also in isolation. When I'm saying isolation, if I give you the example of my post on which I was deployed, which is neither of the three, it's still a little habitat area. It was on line of control in about 40 kilometers ahead of Akhnoor region, the line of control which divides India and Pakistan. The area is known as Palanwala, and my post was dot inside Manavartavi river, where that imaginary line run through dividing us. The post was on riverbed, and riverbed, as you understand, is full of sand. The month was July. I was under tin shed. Shanty होती है ना, जो आपने देखा होगा, you know, when you enter any metro city alongside the railway track, और झुग्गी झोपड़ी type जैसे tin shed के बने हुए shelters होते हैं. That is the type of post in which I was enjoying my life, I would say. The tin above you and sand below you. There is no electricity. Of course, you can't enjoy the electricity. If you switch on the bulb, you will give away your position. There is no fresh milk to you. There are no fresh vegetables to you. There are, during those days, of course, there was not at all the World Wide Web so much freely available. No internet facility, no mobile phones. Even today, the mobile phones are there. It is restricted to be used up to a location, not that anywhere and everywhere you can take it. Ration was actually rationed. Ration was actually rationed, and if I used to get the non-vegetarian fowl, you know, it used to come to me in such a situation that as a vegetarian, I used to feel that I will oblige that chicken if I kill that chicken, because that is so. How do I describe? I don't know. I fail in the using the words. वो जो गोभी आती थी वो वाली आती थी जो आप शायद discard कर दो. You will never buy that gobi or bhindi or aloo or stuff like that. But then we used to enjoy all that because we had a purpose that we are here not for holidays. We are here to defend our motherland. So if any one of you have some purpose in your life, whether it is the present day lockdown, whether it is a situation where you are living with all the comforts with your family, or whether it is without any comforts, away from your family, disconnected totally from the habitat world, if you have a purpose in your life, you will cherish those days. So we had the purpose of defending the motherland, and every soldier, despite any hardships of condition, you know, was defending with smiles on throughout the life. If today you are equipped with all the comforts, it is actually making you uncomfortable because everything is available. Look at the migrant workers who don't have. There is a movie made, 1231 kilometers, or 1321 kilometers, or 1231 kilometers, something like that. There is a movie made, which is a documentary movie, where 5 migrant workers have cycled so many kilometers to reach to their place because there is no other way. Total lockdown was there, and they survived. So the options, when you have so many options to get confused in your life, that is a time when you find faults from one thing on other thing or something else. If you do not have options only and you have to survive in your life, you will survive in every condition. In every condition, you will feel happy.
Well, you obviously have enormous focus and discipline that allows you to do that. Not all of us have that drive or grit, as your book is titled. So what can we do to develop the kind of resilience in the face of adversity that you are speaking to?
Sir, for building these characteristics in your attitude, whether it is for the lockdown period, whether it is when you are living comfortably, when everything is happening as per your choice, still most of the time you find that life is not giving me what I want, because my boss is not correct, because my company is little difficult, because the area of work which is where I am working, market is not conducive according to that. Whether it is personal, professional, or any arena, if you are into a challenging situation, there is only one solution, and that solution is, as told in Gurbani and various scriptures also. I'll pick up the line from Gurbani: Man jeete jag jeet. You have to conquer on yourself. There is no other option. The moment you start conquering the situations outside, you will keep conquering, defending, fighting, and waste time. Each one of us have same time with us, 24 hours a day. There is no difference who you are, where are you. Whether you use that time productively, conquering on yourself, finding happiness with what you have, cherishing those moments, and making best out of what you are into now, or you use that time in finding faults in government, in administration, in profession, in boss, in wife, in husband, or anything else. Time is yours. I lost leg, so I lost leg. That's it. Even if I cry out for n number of years, it is not going to grow. That's my fact. So how do I live now? The first thing which you need to do is accept your reality. And that is by Man Jeete Jagjeet. Accepting your situation and reality will get you at peace. But you are not saint. I'm not telling you to go to jungles and become a saint. So accepting your reality is the first step. The second step is making best out of what you have. Now that will progress you. So if you are in a situation which is not ideally as per you, it will never be an ideal situation. Let me tell you that fact. If you are a type of a guy who is unhappy, even if I give you a number of things which you feel that will make you happy, you will still be unhappy. That's the attitude. That's a part of attitude. So you have to, again, coming back to the same statement, Man Jeete Jagjeet, you have to mend yourself inside, make yourself strong enough inside. Accepting your reality and putting your best foot forward to make best of what you have is the only way out.
Okay, you say best of what you have, but when you selected what you did, sports, it seems almost the face of defiance for someone who is physically challenged. Can you talk about why sports has been your calling, and not just any sport? I mean, it's not chess, it's not golf that you decided to pick up, but you played squash and now you have these marathons and even skydiving. So can you speak to why you opted in the way that you did?
See, when I stepped out of the army in 2007, I stepped out of the army after putting 10 years of service. Before that, let me tell you two things which happened when I was on the OT table and doctor had told me that your leg need to be amputated because of gangrene. An amputation is the injury which is least troubling me. The injuries rest of the body which are creating more nonsense off and on than the amputation, because that part is not there. The part which is not there is not going to trouble at all. The best part of that is this. So on the surgery table, when doctor shared this news with me, I had two thoughts. First thought is not my thought. It is something very spiritual which struck me, and I feel blessed for that. That let me see, this was the thought, that let me see how persons with disability, somebody who doesn't have a leg, live a life. Maybe one day I'll be able to lead a life which will not only be inspirational for me, but for many others. Now imagine why I said it's not my thought, it's something spiritual, because nobody perhaps, who is about to lose a leg can think something like this. So something is there. That's why I feel blessed. But the second thought was mine. And that was that I will never compromise with the standard and quality of my life. I said, come what may, if the way I am living today, I may improve out of it, but I will never go down below this. So when I stepped out of the army in 2007, and I started venturing and looking at people, I realized there's too much of a confusion related to disability. People relate disability with your bad karma, past life deed and stuff like that. It might be true, it might not be true. I'm not debating that part. But my logic was that on one side, Gita says that slain you attain heaven and victorious you rule the earth. And as a soldier, if I lost a leg, I got injured, if I am 100% disabled, it is in the war. So what happens to the persons who are somewhere in between like me? neither I'm, heaven, perhaps gods have told me, "Nahi, nahi, you are not pyara as of now," nor I can say that I am victorious because I'm not the king. I'm a soldier, normal soldier. I lost a leg in the war. Is it a bad karma? So there is something which is wrong, which is not matching. Then I realized that perhaps actually it is the insecurity of the larger public which is propagating a thought that it is related to bad karma. Why I said insecurity, with all due respect to everybody, but if somebody like me do something which many people who are so-called able-bodied people are unable to do, then who's more able? There's a question, who's more able? Somebody who's disabled is more able. Somebody who's fully able is a disabled. Isn't it a confused state? So that's the reason why insecure people have spread such words. Oh, this is that, this is that. Shun them in their thought process itself, kill their thought process itself, so that they do not come out of their life and choose and do something which is something out of the world type of a thing. So I said, let me do it now. As a soldier, if I have to change this mindset, I have to do something on ground. Act on ground will only prove the fact. No talk, no gyan, no lectures is going to bring any change. Must have done many people have done something like that, but it does not change anything. So that is where I chose. And what did I choose? The most difficult task, assumingly the most difficult task for an amputee. Lower limb amputee. People feel that walking perhaps is a tough task. So running for a short distance, nobody can imagine that. Nobody can dream in their dreams that somebody can go for a long distance running who doesn't have a leg. And that too, running with a prosthesis which is not supposed to be used for that running purpose, which you can't run with that prosthesis. It is not made for that purpose. Even the prosthesis terms and conditions suggest that please do not use it for more than 5 to 7 kilometers continuously, otherwise you may damage the product. Or to hell with the product. More important is your respect. So if your respect is getting damaged, what will you do with the product? Achar daloge uska? Aur aa jayenge product. Respect nahi aayegi kabhi wapas. So I was looking at people and I thought that this is the area. If I do something here, if I am able to conquer my own limitation, my mind which is telling me nahi tere bas ka nahi hai. Man jeete jag jeet. My mind played the tricks during the run also. 3 hours 49 minutes which I took to finish my first half marathon was a total battle with me myself. Because throughout the run, my mind was giving me tricks. Mind is very finicky. It's a very smart guy. When your heart desires something and you do not achieve that, your heart breaks. And when your heart breaks, it starts sending you all nonsense signals to the mind, to the brain. And then brain starts creating, your own fishy, different type of situation, justifications, blame game and all that stuff starts. But all these is what? These are your organs. So you bloody well keep your organs under your check. Right? So when I was running that first half marathon, throughout the run, my all organs were giving me tricky ideas. Take a shortcut, take a lift with somebody. Or at the most, if you are feeling so much of pain and trouble, because I was in pain and trouble. So who told you to do this? Quit. Quitting is the easiest option. But then as a soldier, when you stepped inside any task, even if it is self-taken task, you do not leave till the end. As I told in the beginning during the introduction, armed forces, once they step inside, they complete the task. Option is only to win. There's no other option. So as a soldier, I carried on. First time, as I told in the video also, I actually followed Man Jeete Jag Jeet. And that was so cherishing. So the reason of picking up sports, one, the most difficult activity if I do, I will convey the message strongly that limitations are set by your mind. Let me also add here, when I had both the legs, when I had the intact body, I was least interested in long distance running. 14-kilometer cross country, which was the part of one of the tests in Indian Military Academy, I used to be like, oh my God, again this test has come. Abhi ye pass karna hai to karna hai wala scene. Not that interestingly I used to do it. It's only after losing the leg I went even further distance. On 42nd birthday of mine, I did my solo 42-kilometer run. That was on 42nd birthday of mine, to celebrate my birthday, to achieve something. So sports not only allowed me to convey back message on ground, but sport also helps internally to push your limits and understand your limits till where you can reach. And it also additionally gives you so many good hormones to create good mood, to generate all those healthy things inside your body, which otherwise at times with sedentary lifestyle you picks up. So my running, my cycling, my doing other activities allows me to control my body organs, which is my team members. I'm the boss of my team. These organs are my bloody slaves. They should not misbehave in front of me. They should do what I want them to do. I'll give you one more example here. When I'm talking about the organ, very recently, about 2 to 3 years back, I suddenly found that during a routine blood check that my thyroid gland is misbehaving. So it was coming around 7.4 or something. We should be below 4.3 or so. Now, I didn't want to add on medicine in my life, and enough of medicines which I had. So now there are two options which I had in my life during that moment when I found that thyroid gland is not behaving well. One is to hand it over to the third party. Who's the third party? Doctors. And let the medicine do the act of what thyroid gland is supposed to do. So you are relaxed. Now I have taken a pill. My gland, beta, you relax, pill will act in your place. That is the one option, which is the easy option. The second option is, oh, you bloody wake up, thyroid gland, I'll not make you sleep. And you make sure that it wakes up. It's a little difficult task. But then that let you enjoy your life better. The example can be set in anywhere. You always have easy option or the correct option in your life. Wrong option किसी के लिए नहीं है. Wrong option कोई जान के नहीं लेता. मेरे हिसाब से जो इस समय मुझे सही लग रहा है वो मेरे हिसाब से सही है. I will not say it is wrong. Even a terrorist will say I am right. Nobody will say I am wrong. So either it is easy option or a correct option. Now the easy option is to hand it over to third party. The correct option is make sure your own abilities improve. And for making sure your own ability improves, you have to again follow that fact. Man jeete jag jeet. So I included an exercise which rekindled the thyroid gland. And today I'm not using any medicine. I never started thyroid medicine. Humbly I am stating it. डर भी लगता है कहीं ऐसा नहीं है कि मैं बहुत egoistic statement मार रहा हूँ कल को दोबारा से आ जाए थोड़ा अच्छा you want to become a boss, let me ensure you not.
Let me ask you two quick questions before we start turning to the audience questions, and we have quite a few of those. You have this immensely positive and cheerful persona. I read actually somewhere that you talked about your friend Prakash Krishnan, who visited you at the hospital and met you a year later and was startled to find that you actually had a prosthetic limb because you had sounded so upbeat with him during his visit. So my question to you is, have you ever been emotionally or psychologically drained? And if so, how have you overcome that?
Spirituality. If by chance you happen to pick up a book, that book of mine, Grit, The Major Story, it gives out the story of my childhood, where I was connected to the spirituality, which generally people name as religion also. I don't connect it to any religion, but of course, Sikhism taught me that. When I started going to Gurdwara Sahib, I started learning the way how our gurus have lived their life, this selfless sacrifice, soldierly and saintly life is there. That motivated me to not to, cry over shallow things. Because if once on an interview, TV interview panel, the journalist asked me that, didn't you feel the same similarly? Didn't you feel sad when the leg was lost? So my answer to her was that, where on one side the gurus have sacrificed the whole family, the father, himself, children, did not shed even single tear. I just lost one leg. You see the armed forces, be it Abdul Hamid, be it my coachmate Vikram Batra, all of them smilingly took everything. Nothing happened, they did not cry out. So if I start crying, it'll be demeaning to all of them, disrespectful to all of them. Right? So spirituality helps me to find happiness in what I have. And it does not mean that I don't feel sad. It does not mean that I don't feel negative. It does not mean that I don't feel pensive. It does not mean that I don't cry. Mark my words. I don't, it does not mean that I don't cry. I do cry. Men do cry. Forget that very age-old notion. It is no against the men don't cry and stuff like that. It's okay, yaar. If I feel like crying, the emotion is coming, let me cry. But do not stay stuck there. That's an emotion. And nature has created this emotion. Who the hell are you to stop that emotion? If that emotion is not there in you, that means something wrong. So negativity, positivity, feeling pensive, feeling sad, feeling happy, all these are emotions made by nature. Now, how to control and use these emotions for your own benefit is something which is being left on the mankind, because that is the logical deciphering your brain can do, looking at experiences, looking at knowledge, looking at exposure and awareness. If you can't understand this fact, then please try to understand.
So, Gilal, my last question to you before we turn to the audience questions. Often regular folks are discomforted by how they should relate to physically challenged people. Some of us feel fear or pity sometimes. Can you advise us what we should know about the world of the physically challenged and how best to relate and engage with them?
You see, physically challenged or intellectually challenged or persons with disability. So also, like, somebody is Hindu, somebody is Sikh, somebody is from southern India, somebody is from Nigeria, somebody is from Africa, somebody from Australia, or somebody else, somewhere else. It is something like similar. Let's keep it like that. So if a new person has come into your life or in and around your friend circle, you should increase your awareness about that. So if you're going to US or if you're going to France and you learn a little bit of French, it'll be easy for you. In fact, you will make sure that you learn a little bit of French and then you go and venture out there. So if you meet an amputee, if there is a friend, there's somebody who is an amputee in your friend circle, a new student has come up, find out about the amputation. That awareness and exposure to knowledge little knowledge about that amputation will help you to curb, that feeling of how do I deal with the person. And wherever you are confused, what do? You go and ask. Simple. Keep it simple and straight. The fact of kiss is not this kiss. That is also very good. Wherever you get an opportunity. But kiss is KISS. Keep it simple and straight. Keep it simple and straight. Please go and ask that person. If the person is in need, he or she will ask you, okay, help me out. If that person is not needing your help, then do not force yourself. It is as simple as that. Little awareness about the particular disability, because it can't be explained, while we interact here. Disabilities are various types. So the type of person whom you are meeting, if you know a little more about that type of a disability, and then keeping that in mind, interact with the person, it will help you. And moment you get connected to the person, slowly your friendship thickens up. You will understand that person more. Do not hesitate. That's the fact. इसको ज्यादा सिर पे बोझ बनाने की जरूरत नहीं है. It is simple life.
Okay, let me turn it over to Mukul for the audience questions.
Thank you very much, Achal, and thank you very much, Major Singh, for such an inspiring talk. I'm sure all of us have learned so much from you, so thank you for that. Before I turn to the student questions, I want to slip in one that I have been thinking about ever since I heard about your book, Grit, because there is a UPenn professor, Angela Duckworth, who has also written a wonderful book called Grit. And in that, she says that apart from talent and opportunity, what makes people more successful than others is the pursuit of goals despite setbacks, which is grit. But another thing she said, and everything you said today proves the correctness of that point of view. But another thing she says, which is very interesting, is that another important determinant of success is self-control. And that is a capacity to regulate your attention, emotion, and behavior in the presence of temptation. So how do you view the relationship between grit and self-control? And what role has self-control played in your success?
Sir, self-control is what? Man jeete jag jeet.
Right.
Is self-control only. As I mentioned, the first thing is to accept your reality. Whichever situation, wherever you are, in whatever condition, that's your reality. If my face is like that, I can't become, some Hollywood or Bollywood hero. I can't replace his face. People do that finicky act also, that funny part of cutting, pasting, this and that. But that's not required. You should take pride in yourself. If today I am 100% disabled, amputee with little hearing loss, intestines gone, shrapnel inside, injury here, injury there, that's it. I love myself. I take pride in myself. Accepting the fact. Now, what stops you to accept the fact? Wo kya kahega? What will that person think? How will that person look at me? Is it good? Is it right? All these things are from the perspective of the other people. Now, other people are also thinking the same way like for you. Whether she is right, whether he is right or wrong. This confusion is there in everybody's mind. Who will take the lead? Somebody who will control his own emotions or her own emotions. Now, his or her own emotion is what? Man jeete jagjeet. Man ko kabu karna zaruri hai. और ये बात मैं नहीं बोल रहा हूं. It's written in our holy scriptures. Everywhere you pick up any scripture, if you have to live happily, beautifully, peacefully, and successfully, the first step is to control your desires. You keep on increasing your desires and fulfilling your desires, it will never end. But I am not saying that desire nahi honi chahiye. Because that second step, as I mentioned earlier also, repeating the same, is to make sure that you put in your best foot forward doing the hard work. Now, why do we don't get success? Successful people we are talking about. Let's understand that theory which I deciphered a bit. Success, if I put it in the form of, okay, let's take it in the form of stairs. If going from ground floor to the first floor is success, and there are 10 stairs which you need to climb, and these stairs are depicting your ability, your attitude, your characteristics, your traits. If you are able to reach up to 7th stair, you have not reached the first floor. You will see the failure because there are something which is lacking. The 3 stairs are yet to climb. You improve over yourself, climb those 3 stairs, and you will achieve the success. And how do you improve over yourself? By controlling your desires. Man jeete jag jeet. It is simple.
It's a great answer. Thank you, Major Singh. There's a question from Anshul Gupta who says, how do you gain this mental strength to continue running even in adverse circumstances?
Bits and pieces. When you do things in bits and pieces, a huge and humongous task becomes small. And in every bit and piece, Just keep on moving. The line which I mentioned in that video is actually the anthem of my NGO, the challenging one. I might be slow. That's fine, but I'll keep my flow. I won't stop till I reach the top. So keep on moving. Even if you are, see, marathon is a beautiful depiction of this. Marathon, how do you do marathon? It's not necessarily that if you start from the start point, you are running like a bloody bullet till the end. That's fine. They are the professional's task. If you are a professional, very good, do that. Otherwise, in between, you feel tired, you feel like giving up, you feel thirsty, you feel hungry. So what do? You take a break, you take a sip of water, take a pause, and then move ahead. And then you don't see the end point in your in 21 kilometer or 42 kilometer. You can't see the end point. Similarly, in life, you can't see where is the success. Whichever thing what you are looking for now, where is the success, you can't see. After 1 year is going to happen. Not possible. Even that palmist or bloody astrologist, nobody can tell you like that. Even if you put 10 number of ornaments or rings or stuff like that, is not going to happen. No ray of sun is going to enter in your finger and make sure that you become a successful. Nothing is going. That's what happens. So similarly in marathon, you can't see the end point, but you can see the next turn. You can see the lamppost. You can see the next person. You can see something else. That becomes your intermediaries. Run till there. Okay, done. Move ahead. Take a pause if you are tired. Move ahead. It's okay if you are taking 3 hours. Somebody else may take 2 hours. Somebody else may take 4 hours. It's okay. That is depending upon that person's ability and qualities. This is the place where you should not compare. Because somebody else might be super smart, super fit. You may not be. That's why they say don't compare. But you should see your own targets and your own speed. Don't stay stuck anywhere. Don't take it lightly कि अब तो खत्म बस आगे नहीं बढ़ सकते ना बस उसी का इंश्योर करना है. I might be slow. It's okay. But I'll keep my flow. I won't stop till I reach the top.
It's wonderful. Thank you for that great advice. There are a bunch of questions about overcoming fear and building self-confidence. So Yashaswini asks, how exactly should we be recognized as leaders when we have stage fear? And Kumar Rishikesh Anand asks, how do you maintain confidence and consistency? And Subhash Chandra asks, if a fresher is shy about speaking with others, how can he start to build his character?
So you remember that analogy of 10 stairs going from ground floor to first floor, 3 stairs, you are still short of reaching the success. Now, these 3 stairs are your shyness, your stage consciousness, your fear. So you work hard in these areas. Catch the bull by horn. I'll give you my example. When I was a student of, when I was in school, I flunked in 11th standard. There's a different story to that. It's written in the grid book. But then my batch, the previous batch was passing out and we were supposed to throw a, what party is that? Kya bolte hain usko? When the batch passes out, you know that what type of a party we throw. Right. So in that we were supposed to give a little bit of cultural program and sweets, etc. So I said that I'll sing a song. Now this is something because I had stage consciousness and I was working on any and every opportunity where I can go on stage, because that is one of the stairs which I was lacking. Before that event also, whenever I got the opportunity to go on stage, irrespective of what people are thinking, I went on stage. Now in this particular event also, I said I'll sing a song. And I started singing a song, but I started on a higher note than what the note which was supposed to start. So जब मैं गाने लगा, तो गाते गाते something like that happened. And people started laughing. Of course, everybody will laugh. You are also laughing. That's okay. And that's what I also thought in those moments. And I said, that's okay, keep laughing. My task is to complete the song. I did complete the song. And I did hear the clapping. Another incident. When I was in Ludhiana, I was preparing for my Combined Defense Services exam. I was little weak in English and history. So these are the subjects which I took in my graduation, because alongside I was doing privately graduation. I purposefully took English and history because I was weak. I said, to catch the bull by horn, let me work on these. Perforce I have to study. And alongside, वो जो एक तरीका होता है to overcome shying of speaking English, stand in front of mirror and read loudly the newspaper. I used to do that drill in my room. And my room was actually a hall room divided by a plywood wall in between. So the other part of the room was also rented to somebody else, a couple. And every Sunday, when early morning I used to read the newspaper, they used to start laughing and say, "Ki Sardar pagal ho gaya." I said, okay, never mind. Because today I'm sitting here in front of you, sharing this anecdote. They may be still laughing on somebody else. It doesn't make any difference. Catch the bull by horn. Whatever thing you are in weak, if you really love yourself, get after that. It'll become your strength. Maybe this is the reason when I lost the leg, I said, let me now run. And that became my strength.
It seems like we're almost out of time. Achal, do we have time for one more question?
Just throw in one or two more.
Okay. So there are a few questions about leadership. Which leadership style is more effective, autocratic or democratic? Which quality is topmost in a leader by which we can say he or she is a leader? And a third question is, what are some of the most essential soft skills that leaders should have?
So autocratic or democratic, this question is good if you attempt on paper, but when you are living in practical life, then it depends what situation you are in. At times you need to become authoritative also, but at times you need to become democratic also. It's the combination of various depending upon the situation in which you are in. You can't say that one type of leadership is always fit in everywhere. It's not. Life is not like that. Communication skills. So communication is what? Let's understand this fact. The simple definition of communication is that somebody who wants to communicate to someone, he or she should use a language or gestures or whatever combination of those, so that the message which is required to go from A is clearly deciphered in the similar manner by the B who's receiving the message. Now, if you feel that you are a very good orator and you know difficult words of vocabulary of English, and you are using that to show off, the message is not getting clear. It's a waste. It's not a good communication. So depending again upon situation, if you are talking to a person who can understand that vocabulary, please use that. If you are talking to a person who can't, please do not use that. If you are talking to a person who can't understand English, please speak in Hindi. If you are talking to a person that language not known to you, you may even use gestures or sign language or your facial expression. Now, smile and anger are common throughout the world, but it is not a language. It is gesture. So that's a soft skill thing which I should. There was third thing also you mentioned. Can you repeat that? Leadership styles, soft skill,
what quality is the topmost in a leader that by which we can say?
Oh, yes, that's the most important fact. In my opinion, if you have compassion and empathy, you will be able to lead better. Because empathy is a word which is very heavily used, but less understood. One should try actually live the other person's life and understand what situation that other person in before passing any type of orders. This is the reason why in armed forces, when new joinee, a new officer takes commission, especially in the infantry, which is on ground, the last mile, who the infantry which covers, they are supposed to lead from front in the most dangerous situations. So the officer who take commission in the infantry, they are supposed to be living with the men in the beginning, understand their lifestyle, their language, their culture, their way of talking, the value system which they follow, the language, the ethos, all that. So if a person who is a South Indian, who's from South Indian and commanding a troop which is Sikh regiment, that South Indian officer will learn language which is used by the Sikh troops and follow the whole culture of those troops. That connects. And when you have compassion, you will take care of your team. Taking care of your team out of the way in your, you should not see that professionally I am connected with my team member. But when you connect personally and understand if there is something troubling that person at home front, maybe because of parent, maybe because of child, maybe because of something else, and you help out that team member there professionally, that team member will become much more stronger and believer in you.
Thank you, Major Singh. I guess we have come to the end of our time. I know we could keep going on here for another half an hour, but thank you for sharing your powerful and inspiring story with us and with our students. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on today's Leadership Chat. Good evening and goodbye.
Thank you so much, Professor Achal and everybody, and thank you so much to the audience. Take care of yourself. God bless you all and keep smiling. Smile takes away half the pain. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.